guys. So, this is in response to what a friend of mine sent to me and what a few people have been posting about how, the Western world, and in particular Jews, have lost, pride in who they are, and have lost, or has lost, nationalism. Nationalism is like a dirty word. And, they basically were saying, kind of like in a very sweeping way, including the West and including Jewish people, that, nationalism has to come back. Here's the thing, guys. Well, there's a reason for that. There's a reason that nationalism became a dirty word in the Western world. Why? And Rav Kook wrote about this, and you have to be very careful, friends, to make a distinction between the West and the Jewish people. The West or Israel. If you guys noticed, when nationalism emerges, anytime nationalism emerges in, let's say, Europe, America as well, but even more so Europe. And I'm going to get to that. I'm going to get to America. In Europe, it becomes first pride in oneself, right? In one's own heritage. And then it becomes hatred of other. And then that leads to war. It leads to persecution, genocides, and eventually war. The most prominent, the most visible instance was Hitler. The Germans have to bring the pride back into who they are, all this kind of stuff, and that eventually led to, it's not just about Germans, it's about, we have an enemy. That enemy is the Jew. And then we know the rest of the story. My friends, I don't know if you noticed, the rare times, there's been 2 times in Jewish history where quote-unquote Jewish, I guess you could call it nationalism, emerged was, I want to say, actually 3 times. But really, the first time was like over 2 instances. One was the story of Hanukkah. The other one was when we revolted against Rome, right? To get our country back. So, it wasn't, and then you could say, well, Tzvi, didn't that lead to war? It led to war in the sense of somebody's in our country and someone is bringing values that are not ours. We don't inherently hate them. We don't, hate them because they're not us, or, hate them because they ain't us. We just don't want them to impose their values on our country, on us, right? So in the case of Greece, they were imposing their values. In the case of Rome, they were imposing their values, right? In the case of even the Purim story, right? The Jews were all over the world, but they wanted to just straight up kill us. Fine. And then you fast forward to today, we have literally, religious Zionist and or nationalist parties in Israel, and everybody thinks that those parties inherently hate other people. Folks, I have news for you. They do not. As I mentioned before, if you want to say that the modern incarnation of that, the person who kind of personified that and started that was Rabbi Kahana, he didn't hate anybody. He didn't hate, contrary to what you've been fed, what you think, he didn't hate Arabs. His whole thing, and my whole thing, and the thing of any religious Zionist and or person who just is very hazak with their Jewish identity, is just don't attack us. Don't try to kill us, right? Again, we have, yes, it is a foreign entity. It's been there for a while. That's why everybody thinks it's indigenous, but it's actually not. Folks, it's been like it's been pretty invasive for a while. Unfortunately, it's our cousins, right? Their land is Arabia. They have not only invaded our land, they've invaded North Africa. They're not indigenous to that place. They've invaded Syria and Iraq. They're not indigenous to that place, contrary to what people tell you. They invaded Lebanon and Africa and parts of Africa, and even Iran, because Islam, right? Even though it's not Arabs, it's Persians, but their ideology, their spiritual ideology invaded the entire Middle East, including Israel, right? So, folks, we don't hate anybody. We just want them to stop killing us. We tried the whole thing of letting them live with us, 2 million citizens. You have flare-ups every so often, right? Clearly, you see that it's not, it's like a marriage where you're thinking, oh, I can deal with this. Oh, this is the way it's supposed to be. This person is supposed to behave this way so that I get better, so that I improve. What is it? They're supposed to be my opposite. What do they say? They're supposed to challenge me, folks. There's a difference between somebody challenging you and somebody just literally trying to kill you on occasion. And we kind of lie to ourselves and say, no, it's okay. I can live with this. This is manageable, folks. It's a toxic relationship. Oh, okay, 90% of the time everything's under the above the surface, everything's okay, but 10% of the time somebody's trying to kill you, right? It's toxic, right? Clearly that person has to go, or in this case, people, right? I'm veering away. The point is, guys, Jewish nationalism is not inherently hatred of other. At best, or quote unquote at worst, it's just a self-defense, meaning it manifests in self-defense. But at its core, all it is Torah, mitzvot, and being hazak within ourselves and who we are, being kind of strong in who we are, exuding our identity as a Jewish people. Preferably, and some would say even only, from the land of Israel. Some would say, as long as if we're in the diaspora, as long as we're doing mitzvot and, doing what's called Kiddush Hashem and doing sanctifying God's name and showing the best of what the Jewish people are. But I would argue from the land of Israel, my friends. Being in our land, doing Torah and mitzvot, acting like, when I say menshes, I don't mean a male, I mean like humans, right? And that's it. It's got nothing to do with hatred of other or this or that. So, my friends, I think that people have given nationalism a dirty name is because the nationalism that they know is from Europe, right? And that does, unfortunately, tend to manifest in hatred of other. Rav Kook wrote about this extensively, and he said, in Europe, because of certain things, cultural, religious, spiritual, that's how it comes out, right? With the Jewish people, he coined the term Hebrew universalism, Jewish universalism, meaning we're just here to bring God to people, right? And yes, that does include, or that does involve, being in our land, being on our land, our ancestral homeland, doing Torah mitzvot. If somebody tries to kill us, we defend ourselves. Again, it's not inherent hatred. It's not like, those guys are, inherently like this and that and the other. It's just, defend yourself. And and if someone tries to kill you, you rise up and you preempt them. You do. Even our so-called non-religious, the founding fathers of the modern state of Israel were not religious people, so to speak. They weren't Haredi people. And they followed that creed. They followed that instructions. In 1967, partially in 73, with their hands tied behind the back by, a guy with a Jewish last name in America. So, I think that's where people lose the plot, my friends. Yes, it got a dirty name, but honestly, I am a little bit concerned when I see nationalism in Europe. Unless, my friends, and here's where we get to America. In America, you also have people complaining about nationalism. But here's the thing, guys, and this is where it coincides with Israel, with the Jewish people. If that nationalism is based specifically on the what we call the Old Testament, the Torah, the Tanakh, it's going to be healthy. If it's based on, in the case of Hitler, paganism, I don't know, some kind of, he was like Norse crap, right? Or, dare I say, as you see with this whole crisis king thing, only, and I'm not here to attack Christianity, but only New Testament without Tanakh, without Old Testament, throwing away the entire, what's called corpus of Judeo-Christian for non-Jews, then it manifests in hatred. You see it with the crisis king crowd, right? What we call the Groypers, right? Candace Owens, all these kind of people. They're throwing away the Tanakh, because when you throw away the Tanakh, then you can then the Jewish people in Israel have nothing to do with anything, right? They're just, and then you end up hating Jews, right? But my friends, when you have a nationalism, whether it's in America or in Europe, non-Jewish, or in Israel, Jewish, with Tanakh, with the Torah principles, healthy, okay? So that's it, guys. So that I just wanted to make that distinction because, yeah, listen, there is a reason why people, they hear that word, they hear the word, or here they hear the word Zionism. It's also a dirty word because they don't even know what it means. Zion just means Jerusalem, right? That's all it means. Jerusalemism, if you want to use a different term. The belief that Jerusalem belongs to the Jewish people. The belief that, Jerusalem is the home of where the temple is supposed to be, and the home of the Shekhinah, and where God's presence is supposed to dwell, etc., etc. That's essentially what Zionism technically is. I'm not talking about political Zionism. Just what it should be and what it is in reality. And my friends, nationalism doesn't have to be a dirty word. If pagans come with it, we got problems. If people come who threw away the Torah and the Tanakh, we got problems. But if you're coming, Jew or non-Jew, especially Jewish person, with the Torah, with Hashem, you're bringing only light, and what you're doing is you're distinguishing yourself as a people with an identity, be it Jewish, be it Hungarian, be it even German, right? And or Italian or Polish or whoever, and you are strong within yourself, you're proud within yourself, but it doesn't mean that you hate other people. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you want to have your own country, and you don't want anyone else to invade it. We see that in Eastern Europe, they have more or less, I would say, a healthy nationalism, more or less. In Western Europe, they have none, and the stuff that they do have tends to be, or when they do have it, the ones who don't have it tend to get scared of it, because again, they saw what happens in wars and all the rest of it. Because they don't even have an identity anymore. They don't even have religion anymore. They don't have God. How do we know that, guys? Because Islam has taken over their continent, right? So, all right, guys, I've belabored the point, and I hope I made any damn bit of sense. And if you guys want to talk about this concept, feel free. And also, I recommend picking up Rav Kook's magnum opus, wonderful book called Orot, which means lights, and he speaks extensively on it. This is a topic that has only come to light, no pun intended, in the last few years because, again, the Jewish people are back in their land. We have a more or less a healthy nationalism manifesting, and a lot of people are like, oh, what's this? The Jews are proud of who they are, and proud of their identity, proud of their land, and all the rest of it. This is a problem, right? Both for some people in Israel who are against that, and also for some people around the world, especially people in Europe. Especially. All right, guys. Hope I got the point across, and Shabbat Shalom. Talk to you soon.